We have to find a way to talk and have dialogue and be tolerant between other views.
You have to have open dialogue, and that's where free speech is so important.
Consent's a very important thing, and today in the Me Too movement, it's been very important because I think it's really opened up a lot of eyes.
I think we should get away from this hookup culture and get back to relationships, because when you have a relationship, you have that communication, you have that connection.
If you committed sexual assault, it doesn't matter when it was, you should be held accountable for that. However, we have to make sure that we actually make sure they committed sexual assault, and we have to make sure that all allegations are verified.
So put in these programs thinking that it'll help everyone, but what they forget is that the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
And I think that's what this whole movement is all about anyways, is trying to be open to ideas.
For those of you that just joined, we're going to be talking about Trump tonight. We're going to be talking about the criminal justice reform bill. We're going to be talking about this whole Nancy Pelosi debacle. So right now, I'm going to start off reading from an article from one of my favorite authors in the liberty movement, Jack Hunter. He's writing in the American Conservative, and it is named "Trump Starts to Fix Clinton's Catastrophic Crime Bill Mess." And it starts off, nearly 25 years ago, President Bill Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton led a robust campaign for a tougher sentencing laws that would become the 1994 crime bill. At the time, the NAACP called it a crime against the American people. The next quarter century would prove that the NAACP was right. Quoting here, Bill Clinton presided over the largest increase in federal and state prison inmates of any American president in history. Human rights advocate Michelle Alexander reminded Hillary Clinton supporters in 2016, by the end of Clinton's presidency, more than half of working-age African-American men in many large urban areas were saddled with criminal records, subject to legalized discrimination in employment, housing, access to education, and basic benefits regulated to a permanent second-class status, eerily reminiscent of Jim Crow, Alexander wrote in her book, The New Jim Crow. So, Trump was very eager to point this out and to point out that he was repealing some of the crime laws that Bill Clinton put into place in 1994. What's also really interesting about this story is it wasn't just Donald Trump that can get credit for this. A few people we have to give major shout-outs to, which even Jack Hunter claims in his article, says that there are many progressives, many libertarian-friendly Republicans that have been fighting for such reforms for years, and they are to credit for this. Also, President's son-in-law Jared Kushner arguably played a large role, and so did Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, who fought for this criminal justice reform. One of my favorite lines from this article is that the fight for criminal justice reform has not only been bipartisan, but transcultural. This is awesome that we're finally getting this. Reform. We're not totally abolishing the war on drugs, but we're getting criminal justice reform that is well due. And that's what I'm excited about. Let's see. So the Clintons and the 1994 bill do not deserve all the blame. Love this. You gotta credit Jack Hunter. He does not just give this all to Clinton, because Clinton's not to blame for the whole entire war on drugs. He's to blame for continuing it and pushing it even harder 25 years ago. It says, drug warrior presidents like Ronald Reagan and the George Bushes were not friends to the nonviolent offenders, and incarcerated, had a very big incarceration rate, but it significantly rose under Clinton. So let me do a sound check over here, but we're going to be bringing in Christian Ehmling to talk about this and a little bit more. So let me get him on the loudspeaker for y'all. Christian, are you there?
I am here. How's it going, everyone?
Awesome. So it's great to hear you. It sounds like we got a good sound quality going through here. And everyone, can you hear Christian all right? I think you can.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully I'm audible.
Thank you for being on the show. This is our first ever live session of the Liberty Talks podcast. So I thank you very much for participating me in this. And you're also our first caller. A lot of times we bring people into the studio. Tonight you guys can see we're at the home studio, just some libertarian stuff in the background. Austin Peterson sign, Gadsden flag. But Christian, what do you think about all this? Like, what's your first feeling or thought when you heard about this this bipartisan bill? Trump backs it, and then what is it? The next day, Cory Booker backs it. We have Libertarian-Republicans, Donald Trump, and even progressives backing this criminal justice reform bill. What's your take on it?
Well, I remember the other night right after I was done eating dinner, I opened up my Twitter, as I usually do, to make the rounds and make some edgy comments on there. And the first thing I see is Donald Trump supports a criminal justice reform bill. I opened this up and I was completely shocked, but I was extremely glad to see that we finally had a president that was willing to tackle these issues that so many people have been fighting for so long. It's a complete disgrace that in a country that values liberty and freedom and that was founded on liberty and freedom, it has the most incarcerated population in the world, more so than nations like China, and most of the people in our jails are nonviolent drug offenders. These laws have predominantly affected minority communities, particularly the African American community, as well as more impoverished communities as well. And with this type of bill, we can finally get started on rebuilding our communities, making them successful, and having people, instead of going to jail, get the help they need and become productive members of society again. So I am 100% behind this bill, and I hope to see it pass because this is completely historic.
You're absolutely right about this, Christian. And what's so interesting and what's so great about this bill is it rolls back mandatory minimums. Not only does it roll back mandatory minimums, but even Donald Trump suggests that it's rolling back certain laws that the Clinton administration put in that indiscriminately and discriminately put in a whole new generation of people of color and African American males into prison. And also, like the article was suggesting, it's almost making them a second-class citizen because now they got a felony, they can't get a job, they can barely do anything because they got thrown in jail for a plant or maybe a nonviolent crime. And that's what this is rolling back. Mandatory minimums, nonviolent crimes, drug offenses, and this is what libertarians and the progressives have been shooting for a long time. I'm surprised, but I'm super excited that Donald Trump is embracing this. And you were telling me that there was someone in Arkansas, which I should know this, right? There was a Republican in Arkansas that was going back and forth with Senator Mike Lee. Could you cue us in about this, Christian?
Oh yes, I was on a Twitter earlier today, and I happen to follow both Senator Mike Lee and from Utah and Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas on Twitter, and I saw them both going at it about this bill. Tom Cotton, believe it or not, has actually came out against this bill, which is completely crazy to me because everything in this bill to me screams conservative, screams libertarian, screams progressive. It really screams American values and progressing our nation forward to the place we want it to be, where we can have successful communities and successful families. Tom Cotton is saying we can't do this because it lets violent criminals and cop killers able to get out of jail. And I straight up said on Twitter, I'm just like, that's completely not what this is about. And I find it strange that Tom Cotton is defending quite possibly the most horrible part of the Clinton legacy, the mandatory minimum sentencing and everything. So I don't know if it's some sort of Arkansas, we have each other's back type thing like some Texans have, but I just found it completely shocking that a Republican broke ranking with the president on something that the vast majority of Americans support. And could this hurt Tom Cotton's re-election chances whenever that time comes around? Probably. But I was actually shocked just to see that somebody was actually opposing this, because all across the spectrum, I've just heard nothing but positivity come out of this. So I was completely shocked.
Yeah, this was pretty much the litmus test for the Democrats and for the progressives to say, look, are you in for criminal justice reform? Are you out? Do you want to work together or do you not? Like, are we in this together? Are we Americans or are we not? Are we just Republicans and Democrats? And you've seen Democrats, like I said, Cory Booker and others come out to back this bill. And it really is a shock to see Republicans break the Trump train. They're suddenly jumping off of it because we're going to get mandatory minimums out of the way. But this is something that a lot of conservatives in general have been trying to push. The Koch Institute, this is something that they have pushed. I know when I was early in my activism as a chapter president for Young Americans for Liberty, we brought the Koch Institute to talk about civil asset forfeiture and mandatory minimums at the University of Houston. So this really is historic and something that everyone should get on board with. Hopefully, this Arkansan Republican will get voted out next session for breaking the stride of what the president's actually doing in a good way. This is positive leadership that the president is leading by example, and this is something that everyone should pat the president on the back for. Even Cory Booker,
I agree.
Even Cory Booker, someone who is at odds with him, can come to say, "Hey, look, this is something good." And also, I mean, it just makes me think that we had the chance. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but you think about it, we had the chance to put in, right? Christian said he didn't either. We had the chance to put in Hillary Clinton, right? We had a chance to put in Donald Trump. Do you think? This is a question for you, Christian. Do you think that Hillary would have done something like this?
I don't think that the same women who called young black teenagers in the late 90s super predators and whose husband put into place these laws would ever touch this part of her husband's legacy if she were in office. I say a hell no to that. I don't think if we would have voted for Hillary Clinton, we would have essentially voted for a how many terms would it be now if Bill Clinton were still in office? Because essentially just about every president since I was born has pretty much been the same. So what would that be, like 8th term?
Yeah, right.
It would just be still the same old
terms,
BS that we keep on getting. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I was hard knocking doors for Gary Johnson out in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised by a lot of good things that the president has done, whether it be tax reform, actually going and talking to Kim Jong-un, and now this criminal justice reform bill. It honestly has me considering voting for Trump in 2020 just because this is something that I don't think a lot of the candidates from 2016 had the balls to actually do if they would have gotten elected. So I'm 100% behind this, and I'm going to support this bill in any way I can. I know you've fought for criminal justice reform, and I've been active for criminal justice reform as well out here in Splendora, Texas. So this is just an awesome moment for Americans. Straight up, this isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is one of, do we really care about our country? And if this passes through the Senate and the House and the president signs it, it'll be proof that we actually want to make America great again.
You're listening to Liberty Talks Podcast with Michael Anderson and John Douglas. Follow us on Twitter at Michael4Freedom and at Real John Douglas. Subscribe and listen to the show on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Liberty Talks Podcast is brought to you by all of our musician contributors and musical producers, including Shamari and Jarrell Beats.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now joining us, you are listening to the Liberty Talks Podcast with Michael Anderson and special guest Christian Ehmling.
Hello, everyone.
You really couldn't have said it better. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, but you couldn't have said it better. I mean, if we really do want to make America great, then this is the type of progress that we need. And I 100% do support the president when it comes down to this. It definitely is something that is going to make me consider who I vote for very, very much so when it comes to 2020. But on to something a little bit more. It's still presidential related. It's still related to Donald Trump. But this whole Nancy Pelosi thing is got me wilding out, for lack of better terms. The Democrats are wilding out on Nancy Pelosi right now. So it is, according to Politico, 16 House Democrats vowed in a letter to oppose Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. This is crazy.
I thought so too. That's honestly the most shocking news I've seen all day. Like, the next session of Congress, it's going to get spicy. I tell you that much right now. If a candidate who can actually win the speaker race against Pelosi goes in and wins, who knows? It could probably split the vote and get a Republican speaker. We could get someone super progressive or super young. But honestly, with Democrats coming out against Pelosi, I honestly think that she won't be the next speaker. Like, for real.
I don't know. I disagree. There's a couple reasons why. One, because a lot of people, they don't know the backstory behind this. Let me even just tell you this. They're a friend of mine. I'm not going to drop names. But a friend of mine, we were talking yesterday, and they're like, Nancy Pelosi's a Republican. And no, she's a Democrat. She's a lifelong Democrat. She thought she was a Republican simply because Trump has been trolling her. I think we talked about this, but Trump he put out a video, what was earlier this month, last month, he was like, look, Nancy Pelosi is so qualified for this position. She's amazing. She's just what the Democrats need. And if they won't have her, then we'll put our own Republican votes for her. And just trolled the shit out of her. I mean, trolled her so hard that Americans think she's a Republican now. Democrats probably think she's a Republican too. And so I have a couple questions from some viewers online. I kind of want to ask this before getting into that. Why do you think this is? Do you think that she's not leftist enough? Do you think that she's more anti-freedom than other Democrats? Like, why do you think this is? Do you think it's because of Trump? I mean, do you think it's the Trump effect?
Well, the Trump effect, I have two theories going into this, actually. One, since 2015, and two certain candidates declared for president. I think you know which ones I'm going to say. Senator Sanders from Vermont and Donald Trump. The big anti-establishment candidates of that year. One of them ended up winning. The other one had a primary rigged against them. So the Democrats still had that anti-establishment shot that came through in the 2016 election, and that's playing a factor into this. But I also want to say a lot of people like to use the term 4D chess when talking about President Trump. Now, Nancy Pelosi is quite possibly one of the most accomplished speakers of the House in the history of the position, whether I agree with her politically or not. She is an effective Speaker of the House, or was, whatever, during her first time in that position. So I think Donald Trump was doing his 40 chess thing to say, oh, I support Nancy Pelosi to become the next speaker. She is great, and I'll even get Republicans to vote for her. You know, what that means is that Democrats are going to be like, okay, Donald Trump likes her, let's back it up a minute. And Donald Trump is thinking that they'll put up a weak candidate for speaker. That person will get in, and Donald Trump will be able to have his way better.
Yeah, I think this is... Yeah, I think this is just a ploy by Donald Trump to shake up the establishment Democrats and see what's going on. We have Valerie Campos asking us online, do you think that this split could mean an opportunity for more libertarians to find common ground with certain Democrats? Certain things like banning, like, I guess you could say, like, being better for criminal justice reform, or, you know, not banning e-cigs, or for ending the war, or having a more sober-minded foreign policy on war. Do you think that is something that could come out of this, or do you think they're just going to the left because of, like, socialism?
Well, you know, sometimes I have my cynical tendencies and think, oh, they just don't like Pelosi because she's not left enough. But, you know, people are tired of the establishment, and who knows? Maybe a Democrat will get in that libertarian, like, has some libertarian positions on issues, whether it be foreign policy or criminal justice reform. The e-cig thing, I think that's more of a bureaucracy issue. The FDA is unconstitutional itself, in my opinion, but that's a story for another time, so I don't think the e-cig ban or the menthol cigarette ban would come into play with the Speaker of the House anyway. The FDA is just going to do what it wants to do. But I do think that a non-establishment Democrat Speaker of the House could possibly lead to some, for lack of a better term, progress with some great issues of reform, including criminal justice and foreign policy.
Awesome. So I think we pretty much covered the two things I wanted to talk about. Finishing up, there was something you and I talked about before the podcast I kind of want to touch on, and that is kind of some election coverage updates. You know, I haven't put out a podcast since the election. I've had some interviews, so for everyone listening, let me give you a couple plugs. Go check out the Liberty Talks podcast on YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Michael4Freedom. What's something I can plug you on, Christian? Where people can follow you at?
You can follow me you can add me on my personal Facebook account, Christian Ehmling, EHMLING. You can follow me on Twitter, which is at Ehmling4 Texas. And also follow my blog on Facebook, East County Liberty Talk, where we focus on issues on the local, state, and federal level here with a Montgomery County, Texas mindset. So you can follow us there. Follow me there for some great content. And I hope to see more people follow and spread the message of liberty. Not my message, the great message of liberty.
Absolutely, dude. So we're gonna keep talking about this right now, but so essentially, go follow Christian, go follow me. If you haven't, you can check out the interviews that I've had on Pursuit of Happiness radio show with Ken Webster Jr. You can check out the interviews I've had with Isaiah Carey, and I recently uploaded a blog, so go check that out on YouTube. My YouTube, you can find me at Michael, the number 13, Anderson on YouTube. But, so election coverages. Something we saw in this election was that Republicans lost in the inner cities, in the suburbs, and a lot of House seats. And something I realized, and something I said, and something kind of just even going back in this little history that we've had over the last couple weeks, was that if Republicans and conservatives want to win in this city or the suburbs, they're going to have to run libertarian Republicans or young liberty-minded conservatives, because they are the only people that are going to have the chance to win against the Democrats in their own zone, in their own battleground. They're the only people that have the chance.
The safe blue areas.
Yes. Strong. And the Democrat strongholds, the Libertarian Republicans are the only people that are going to be able to go to their home ground and bring the battle to them. Because any other Republican cannot beat a Democrat in a stronghold.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Even if they're a great candidate, if you were to put just like a regular plain old Republican, take away the Liberty Republican part, just a regular Republican, they could have a George H.W. Bush style resume where they are the most qualified candidate ever. If you were to say put that person up against Sheila Jackson Lee out in Houston, they would lose their asses off, 100%. Now, you take someone who has the courage enough to go out into communities where Republicans don't go, say the inner city out here in Houston, mainly black communities and stuff like that.
Like Thomas Swain.
The message of liberty resonates with people from all different backgrounds. When 2015 was going around and I was working for Rand Paul, I went knocking doors on an Indian reservation. It's a traditionally Democrat area. But whenever I was talking about things that Rand Paul was supporting, like criminal justice reform and so foreign policy, I was actually having people say, wow, I've never voted Republican before, but I like those ideas. I might vote for them. That's what we need to focus on. If we focus on limited government, the Constitution, and the freedom to do whatever you want so long as you don't hurt anyone else, I think that Republicans would, like not a red wave or anything like that, a red tsunami, they would be able to win 100%.
I agree with you, and not only that, but people always talk about it, and I know people, a lot of my friends, I'm definitely a libertarian, but I'm definitely a libertarian. I'm a conservative libertarian. And so a lot of people doubt can we have a libertarian takeover? That is maybe even a bad term to say to conservatives. But can we have a liberty takeover? Can we switch the Overton window in the Republican Party to liberty, to free market economics, to fiscal conservatism? Can we do that? And I think with what we have going here, we can. I think that with the young conservatives, they're a lot more fiscally conservative. They're a lot more of this live and let live, get the government out of my business. I feel like
definitely
we can do it. Every young
Isn't
conservative.
Isn't that the platform Republicans run on anyway? They always say, we want the government out of our lives and stuff of that nature, reduce the budget, repeal Obamacare, stuff like that. I can tell you one thing. If Republicans actually ran and voted in office like their platform said when they run, the Republican Party would be more libertarian than anything if people actually walk the walk and talk the talk. To quote one of my favorite musicians, Gucci Mane, it's all meat and no sauce with Republicans. They talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk.
Yeah, right?
So, exactly.
Well, shoot, man. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, Christian gets it. The message of libertarianism or of liberty or the fiscal conservative message is essentially the message of what the Republicans usually run on, but they're more establishment hacks. Can we get more Austin Petersons? Can we get more Rand Pauls, more Ron Pauls, more Senator Mike Lees? I think in the future we will see that. I think you will not see a red wave. I think you'll see a shift in culture and a shift in values when it comes to the Republican Party in the future.
I've only been active in the liberty movement for 3 years, but at the rate we're going, with the mobilization of young people that's going on all across the country, with people being motivated. Me and you have both been state chairs with Young Americans for Liberty. We've been to plenty of colleges across the state, talked to plenty of students across the state. The ideas of liberty are resonating with young people. I guarantee you, within 20 years, the culture of America is going to be more libertarian the culture of both parties are going to be more libertarian. Hell, we might even have Libertarian Party elected officials. Who knows? But I can guarantee you, if we keep the rate we're going, Liberty's going to win.
No, I totally agree. Whether it's in the Republican Party or the Libertarian Party, we're getting closer and closer every single day. And as long as we can unify people and just make people even see past the parties, like I could care less. I'm not a partisan. I'm an ideologue. I'm a philosophical libertarian. I could care less what party you're a part of, to be honest.
I voted for Libertarians, Democrats, and Republicans in my lifetime. I'll be one of the people to straight up admit it. I vote for people if I agree with them more on the issue. So that means I'm voting for libertarian-leaning candidates across the board.
Exactly. So, I mean, if we could inspire a culture of liberty and just free-mindedness, I think that would be better. And I see that in the future. The Democrat Party, I'm not so sure. They're very on that line towards socialism, but it's almost as if the more they go towards socialism, the more they get knocked down, which is almost a good thing.
Yeah, socialism is incompatible with American values and American ideas. I know it's a talking point that's been used constantly, but I don't really think that the government taking most of your money, giving you free stuff, and controlling different aspects of your life, that doesn't really sound American to me. It sure as hell don't sound constitutional to me. The more people hear about socialism, the more they're not going to like it. Whenever I was going to colleges in 2015 campaigning for Rand Paul, I came across a lot of people who were supporting Bernie Sanders. Then I had to explain to them, you're not getting anything for free. You're just going to be losing much more money out of your checks. And they're like, what? And, you have to explain to them, how are they going to pay for it? They're just going to tax you to death. Straight up, you're not going to have any of your paycheck. You're just going to have like $5 to your name, while the government can say, oh, you don't get to have your surgery, So, I mean, look at the way the VA system is run and tell me that a government-ran healthcare will work. I think that socialism is just a passing fad here in the States, and it'll probably be dead within the next 5 years.
You're probably right, and hopefully for our sake and the sake of our children, you're 100% right, Christian, because socialism is not even compatible with liberalism. If you think about it, it's not. I mean, even if you get down to like the most basic of the liberal arguments, pro-choice, right? Whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, it doesn't really matter. We can get on that topic later. But socialism is the opposite of pro-choice. You have no choices. Exactly. Socialism is when the government gives you one option and one option only. You have no other options. There is no other choices. If you want pro-choice, the best pro-choice option you can have is the free market. The free market will give you tons of choices. You can make your decision,
Definitely.
Make your own independent choice without the government getting involved.
Hell, if we had a full free market system, I could go out and I could put out a great choice for people too. That's the great thing about the free market, is that it allows competition, it allows innovation. Capitalism has been the greatest advancement of human life in the history of mankind. People today eat like kings did 500 years ago because of capitalism. So, it's basic fact. Socialism doesn't work. It won't ever work.
That's what a lot of people don't understand, but they're going to have to learn it real quick. Otherwise, it's going to end with some very harsh problems with our country. You already know both, and I'm sure most of the listeners already know about the crazy debt and all sorts of things like the NSA spying on us, all these things that are violating our civil liberties and destabilizing the sovereignty of our nation. those are the things we should really be worrying about, and not socialism.
That not only destroys the sovereignty of our nation, it destroys the sovereignty of humans. Okay, my little nephew, he was born in debt. He's literally a debt slave already, and he's not even a year old yet. You know, this isn't hurting just us. This is hurting our children. You know, like we can't keep kicking the can down the road any longer. And if we start spending much more on things like free college and free health care, it's only going to make the problem worse. Our country will collapse worse than it did in 1929 when the Depression hit.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Christian. I mean, you just presented the right argument, but it's not even an argument. It's just common sense and the position that we have. I mean, you're just stating facts, but a lot of people on the left will say, oh, well, you're a fiscal conservative, or you're worried about the debt, or you must hate poor people. You must not care about people, you know, and it's not true. We do care about people. And not only...
I think my position is because I care about poor people. Hell, I've been poor people my whole life. I want a system where I don't have to give most of my paycheck to the government. You know, I want to repeal the 16th Amendment because I don't like income taxes, you know. Most people don't either. We don't want to be taxed out of our minds even more than we already are. You know, all this stuff will do is hurt us. To quote Senator Paul, we want freedom and not free stuff.
I can't think of a better way to end the podcast. Thank you very much, Christian. It was an honor to have you on our first live stream. And that is it, y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll come back pretty soon. I actually like these live streams, so hopefully we'll do some more with this. And you can
Keep making Liberty win, everyone.
Hell yeah. So you can check us out on YouTube. Please do me a favor, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Michael, the number 13 Anderson is where you can find me. I also put live on there, so it'll send you a notification. Share this around with your friends. This is Liberty Talks podcast page on YouTube, and on YouTube, this is my channel. So share it out. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to call in, just send me a message. Let me know you know who I am. Have any topics? Let's talk about it. All right. Have a wonderful night, y'all. Good night.